a short discussion on our four idea areas: the poise, locution, eye contact, content. And would like to speak a little bit about the whole idea of gestures. It's one of those odd things that if you're not thinking about what your hands are doing, you may be in better shape than if you are. But on the other hand, if you're not thinking about what your hands are doing, they may be doing something you don't want them to do. So getting past that point of self-consciousness, what is my hand doing right now? I don't know. I do know. I don't need to know. Where are we with that? And I have met a few people, even professional speakers, who have had a particular annoying habit. I find it to be annoying almost to the point where I can't even hear what they're saying. And I will demonstrate that. I met one person who had a particular gesture, which they used for almost every single point that they were making. And it seemed to be a non-stop phenomena. And I thought to myself, as I was watching this person speaking, do they have any clue that they are using this exact gesture? At one point I wanted to raise my hand and say, turn off that gesture. Do something else maybe, just for variety. And so I did notice a few people in their speeches who got a bit of repetitiveness in the gesture. One of them seemed to do this about 60 times in a row, which quite honestly was less annoying than this one, which wasn't anyone in this group. This was actually at a big conference. And I thought, yeah, how do you train this away? So the idea then would be you go through these phases. First, you don't do anything because you're nervous. The second phase is you think, aha, when I say that point, I will do this gesture, right? And then you can make, as I mentioned last time, a little note in your notes to do something at that moment. So if you were talking about cutting something off, you could use a cutting gesture. If you were talking about moving somewhere, you could use a movement gesture. I would avoid, however, some what you might call cliched gestures. For example, now my first point is, it's just a little bit too overdone. It's almost like shouting out unnecessarily. And then my second point would be, and my third point, no, you probably don't want to do that a little bit too overused or too cliche. So hopefully you're getting a little more comfortable with your hands. You can get them off the lectern every now and then. Use them carefully in a way that would fit with what you're speaking about. So we'll be keeping an eye on that today. All right, number 2. Sorry. Locution. What does that mean again? Who can define that word, locution? It means, Elias?
Isn't that you're speaking, how well you speak?
The way your mouth works. And that would include what types of things? We discussed this already, but it would include
speed,
the speed,
volume,
the volume,
pauses,
the pauses,
the
enunciation,
the
enthusiasm, exactly. Now, one of the things that you probably all noticed, or some of you did, is that it's easy to speak faster when you're nervous. Did that happen to anyone when they came up and were in front of the whole group and they started doing the speech? It went a lot faster than when they had practiced it at home. Anyone have that experience? So knowing that, then you can realize that when you stand up in front of the group, you're likely to speak faster if you're a bit nervous. So you can consciously try to slow it down a little bit, and that would be very helpful for some of you. Another thing would be volume. Now there are, I will confess, some loudmouths in this group. I am one of them. I tend to just speak too loud almost all the time. At least occasionally the women in my home tell me that I tend to speak too loud. Of course, I tell them they speak too much, but However, in a small room like this, it's not a problem because even if you're speaking in a normal voice and everybody's fairly quiet, you can hear. In a bigger room that didn't have quite such good acoustics, it might be harder to. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about volume and breathing. Now, it's a funny thing if you watch cartoons, which I hope you never do since television basically just turns your brain to jello, so avoid it whenever possible. But if you were to watch cartoons, one of these dumb little things like Roadrunner or something, where he breathes in a big breath. Have you ever seen this kind of caricature, stereotype of breathing in a big breath where the chest goes way out? Truth be told, if you breathe in a big breath, you don't want your chest to go out first. Because if you do, you're breathing shallowly. Like your stomach goes in, your chest goes up. You're not going to get much air that way. My mother is still, but as I was growing up, a voice teacher. I don't know, have any of you ever had a voice lesson? Your mom. So you would know what I know about voice teachers, and that is they have a habit of making voice students do really odd things with their voices. And I think the purpose for that is to help with the projection element. Now, if everybody stand up for a minute, and you put your hand on your stomach, right? And you take a deep breath. If you're breathing from the bottom of your lungs up, you should feel that your hand on your stomach goes out first before your chest. Try that. Did your stomach go out? Now breathe out all the air. All of it. Okay, now breathe in. Your stomach should pretty much go out to your full distance, which in my case is a little too far. Go out full distance, then you fill up your lungs. You see? Then you've got air all through all the lungs because that's going to pull the air down. Then when you breathe out, and you push with your diaphragm up. So try that again, and take a few breaths where you feel your stomach going out first, and then your lungs filling, and then you breathe out and your lungs empty from the top down, and you pushing the air out with the diaphragm. So breathe in. You feel it? Now, when you are nervous, the tendency is to take what kind of breaths? What do you think?
Quick.
Yeah, quick breaths, a little bit shallow breaths. And if you want to project across a larger space to the back of a room, you need more volume. So you need more air, because the more air you have, the more volume you can produce, and you need the support of that diaphragm, of that muscle that pulls and pushes and helps the air come in and get out of your lungs. So when you're standing up here, then you'd like to think a little bit about your breathing. Are you taking a deep breath? Can you feel it filling from the bottom? All right. Now, for some reason, my mother, the voice teacher, always used to have people do exercises like this. I don't know, does your mom have people do that? I don't know what this is, but anyway, it kind of gives you this feeling if you have enough breath, because if you don't take enough breath and you try that, you go, hee, 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 hee. So I guess it's a way to be sure you got enough breath. So you breathe in and try it. Hee, 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 hee. Now, it should be a little louder, right? Because we're working on volume here. So breathe out, take a deep breath, diaphragm, stomach out first. All right, try this one. Doesn't that feel good? And you got air left over, you know? You're not all out. There's all sorts of other ones, which I won't go into, but what you might do is consider, you can sit down, whether you're taking in enough breath to be able to project to the back of the room. And if you're not sure, then you can check, okay, is my stomach moving first? Then filling the lungs. Can I talk in a nice, louder voice? Can I hee sufficiently? You could test out a little bit. And then if you want to, I would recommend, if you're going to go into speaking or debate in a semi-serious way, you actually go and study a bit with a voice coach. And we've got someone here who will point you in the right direction there, huh? But it can be very helpful. And the other thing is, if you want to project farther, who should you talk to? If you know your voice is kind of on the softer side, and you want to get to the whole room, who should you be looking at much of the time? Daniel? Someone who's far away. See, if I talk to Elias, subconsciously, because he's right close to me, I probably would adjust my voice down a little bit, right? But if I talk to Bryce in the back row, then I out of necessity and subconsciously would adjust myself to speak louder, which would of course benefit everybody else who's in the back area. So a lot of times if I have to speak in a room and there isn't good amplification and there's a lot of people, then I will try to pick someone in the back row, hopefully someone who's smiling, although sadly it's generally the people in the back row who are scowling. But if you can get them to smile by kind of blazing a little smile at them, and then speak to the back of the room, you'll probably have better projection. So some of you, I suspect, on your little evaluation forms, got a suggestion to speak a little louder. Did anyone get that one? Suggestion to be a little bit louder? No, you are plenty loud? Yeah, well, you're one of us, the loud mouse. But there were a few people, I think, who needed a little bit more volume. And so in that case today, when you do your speech, think about who you're talking to. And if you can project out to the back of the room, maybe a little bit more helpful there. Okay, with the eye contact, I noticed everybody improving tremendously. However, there were a few people who I suspect are a little bit afraid to look to the side. I sat in the chair over here. There were a couple people who did not look at me once. I could see they were looking at other people, but what I would encourage you is don't be afraid to look to the side. Because even if you look all the way over here, the people here know you're not ignoring them, because very quickly you will scan your gaze over and you'll smile at the people on the other side, and then the people over here are feeling happy, and the people over here are feeling happy, and the people back there are feeling happy, and everybody feels happy, especially if you're smiling now and then. Unless it's a very serious subject. In case you're doing a descriptive essay, a descriptive speech, say on the guillotine, in which case it would be hard to smile. We have an excellent method of execution to share with you today. No, not going to work. But a little bit of smiling helps a lot. So those of you who are a bit nervous, a bit maybe not smiling as much as you would, say, in normal life, some of you or maybe came in today in just a bad mood. You can consciously improve that smile. I'll tell you a secret here. When I first started teaching as an adult, I quickly discovered that if you smile at people, they enjoy whatever you're doing more, whatever it is. And so I was teaching violin, which can kind of be a hard thing, right? And you can be frustrated playing a musical instrument, and when the teacher is frustrated and you're frustrated and the mom sitting over there is frustrated and everybody's frustrated, pretty soon all you're thinking about is, when is this awful thing going to be over with? But if the teacher smiles,